Okay, we're going to get started. Once again, this is the Outlier webinar, and thank you all for attending today. We appreciate you making some time for us. My name is Robert Calais. I am the Customer Service Manager at Outlier. Just a quick background on myself. I've been in the derivatives trading industry for the last 25 years in a trading capacity for prop firms, hedge funds with my own money. Have also ran product at a derivatives trading software startup, as well as operations at a prop derivatives trading group. So I've worn a lot of different hats in the trading industry, and now my hat is with Outlier. So once again, we welcome you. Thank you for coming. I'm going to be going over some stuff at the beginning of this, but I'd like to make this fairly interactive. So if you have questions, please use the QA portal in Zoom to ask, and I'd be happy to look at certain symbols that you're interested in or try to answer any questions that you have. And if I can't, I'll make sure that I get with the founders and we get those questions answered. Before we get into this, there's a couple housekeeping issues that we need to go through. So I'm just going to read this. The opinions expressed in this webinar are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security or investment product. It is only intended to provide education about the Outlier platform. Before we get into the platform, I am going to read a message from our founders. And that goes, data tells a story, but existing forms of market data omit entire chapters. The question of what will happen is answered by why, just as an action must be predicated by a decision to act. Behavioral analytics, oops, I'm sorry, my camera's in the way. Behavioral analytics clarify the catalysts driving us universally and uniquely to meet questions of why with depth, structure, and stability. Understanding how we decide and what those decisions will be is our obsession. Outlier is the intersection of breakthrough developments in artificial intelligence and behavioral economics built on decades of research and lifetimes spent standing on the shoulders of giants like Hayek, Markowitz, Fama, Kahneman, Thaler, and Taleb. Investors undoubtedly face an array of challenges within vast and diverse market ecosystems. By providing visibility on likely outcomes of broader market inclinations and overreactions, we hope to empower our members with the ability to see beyond the heuristic, reactionary limitations on decision-making we all suffer from. In Outlier, we are building the service we wanted for ourselves and our loved ones. Through consistent accountability and responsible stewardship of our service, we hope to earn your hard-won trust as well. So we'll get a little bit into the behavioral economics part of that in a minute, but I think that's a great message from our founders, and we'll move on. So before we get into the platform, there's just some general information we'd like you all to know about Outlier and what our plans are going forward. Some have asked, oh, how long is it going to be free? The expectation is that this is going to be a free platform for the next 6 to 8 months at least. And some people ask why is that? And there's a couple reasons for that. First, we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to learn how to use Outlier within their own investment strategy. It's another tool to add to your toolbox, and we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to learn how to do that. The other thing is we don't really think it's free, because we're asking for your feedback, and our idea is that through your feedback, we're going to end up building a complete product that everybody can utilize and that everyone is happy with. So, we definitely want to hear from you. A lot of the enhancements that I'm going to talk about at some point are directly from the feedback that we've gotten from our users. So that's kind of the plan that we have with Outlier. We want people to get comfortable with it, and we want to hear your feedback so that at the end of the day, the product is what everybody wants it to be. Data integrity. So there's been, we've gotten some feedback questions about our data integrity, and there's been some, questions with respect to what we're showing as a price relative to, say, Google Finance or Yahoo Finance. And what Outlier does is take price feeds from a number of different sources, and we make sure that we come to the best price given all of those sources. So there is a chance that the price you see on Outlier will not directly line up with, say, a Google Finance. We obviously want to hear if you see something that is egregious, but if you see small anomalies, that is probably the reason why. Okay, now we're going to move on to the platform. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the intro video, please do so. If you have specific questions about some things, you can certainly ask them through the Q&A, but we did a pretty good job of explaining the different areas of the platform and what you're looking at, describing the oscillator and the heat maps. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the intro video, we strongly suggest that you give that a quick watch. It's 5 minutes, and it's pretty educational. We have had some questions on time horizon, and this platform was definitely not designed with day trading in mind. Having said that, I think it's up to you and your particular investment philosophy and your time horizon to decide if you can extract value from Outlier to incorporate that into your trading strategy. The founders will say, 3 weeks to a year is the time horizon, depending on volatility. And I think it's up to the user to incorporate the member to incorporate their investment philosophy with the information they're seeing. This data tells a story, and depending on how you interpret that data will be how the story unfolds. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the behavioral economics that Mark, one of the founders, referenced in his remarks. If you want to think about what Outlier is doing at a high level, we collect a lot of data from a particular symbol, and we try to create, we do create a behavioral baseline based on that data. And we then look at the information coming in from the market. We look at that relative to that behavioral baseline to determine the oscillator and make predictions on where price is going based on that current information relative to the baseline that we've used from a number of different data sources using artificial intelligence over an extremely long time period. We then start making observations, price action observations, that will start populating our heat map values and determine whether it's, what shade of red it is, white, or what shade of blue it is. So whenever you're looking at this data, that's kind of what should be running through your mind, is that we're displaying something that is based on, a behavioral standard that we've created and where things are relative to that. And I think that's important. I constantly am trying to remind myself of that as I'm looking at this information. So at a high level, that is what's going on, and really I think is all you need to kind of think about when you're looking at this information. So if nobody has a specific symbol that they'd like to look at, I'll probably go through something that's on the premium and discount list and just kind of walk through what I'm looking at when I go through an analysis of a particular symbol. I'll give a couple more seconds. Okay, I don't see anybody with any particular question on a symbol, so I'm going to go down to our list and I'll just pick something down here. SCCO, I believe, is the symbol we're looking at. Yeah, Southern Copper. Oh, I'm getting a message that you don't see Outlier. Okay, please give me one moment. Okay, could someone please confirm that they can see the Outlier platform on the screen? Okay, all right. So we should be good there now. I apologize for that. Okay, so we're looking at SCCO, Southern Copper. So when I first, the first view that you get when you look at this is the 3-month view, and it's a good first step to kind of look at where things are. But I move away from the 3-month view pretty quickly, because if I'm just looking at this, I'm not sure how detailed of a story I'm getting from this. So I will typically move from this to, well, I mean, let's make a couple observations here. First observation, obviously the heat map is in the darker shades of red. And I typically, when I'm making notes on certain equities or ETFs or whatever I'm looking at, I will grade the level of red or blue that we're moving to and from. This would be like a red, probably red 8, 10 being the most extreme. The oscillator is obviously still on a downward slope, but that slope is flattening. So those are the two kind of observations I would make. You know, if I'm looking at things technically, you know, this $70 price range over here in January that it got to where it was dark blue. That's interesting that we've kind of fallen below that. But other than that, that's kind of what I would take from this 3-month view. If we look at the 1-year view, yeah, I mean, you know, the story gets much better, or at least a lot more informational. So some observations from this. As far as the oscillator on the upside, you know, it certainly, this is kind of the range I would see as the upper bound of the oscillator. This is really interesting to me that from April on, we stayed in a bluish heat map area, with the exception of this small time period here, and just almost kept climbing this all the way up until we got into this range here, and started kind of trading sideways, and then the oscillator dropped off. So that's something that I would consider interesting. It might cause me some pause as this oscillator drops and the heat map starts to get into red. You know, maybe when we look at the 1-year, or the max, it'll give us even more information here. But that's interesting to me that is part of that picture there. And I definitely, given that piece of information, you know, I typically would want to see this oscillator slope start flattening and even turning to the upside before I started making any decisions. But having seen that, it even reinforces that idea. So then I might look at the max. And if we look at the max, okay, so some interesting things here from the max. It certainly isn't at its, what I would call, the lowest range from an oscillator standpoint. So just something to note. You can see this climb that it had from the March lows much more clearly here. What else? So this is interesting over here. So what I'll often do also is to try to isolate, you know, patterns or something that I see that is similar, just to look at what it would have looked like had that been present. So I might move this through, keep moving the slider to reduce this time frame to get it to like right around here. So this doesn't look exactly like the picture that we have in front of us, but it's similar to the picture we have in front of us. And I think it's interesting to note when you look at this, how long we spent in this red zone here before it finally did start making its way out. And again, you know, these are things that I look at. My aim here is to make you aware of some different things that you can and should be looking at to form your own opinions and, you know, decide how you're going to use this data. But that's definitely interesting to me that it spent that kind of time in a red zone, that we also had on that move higher before we have started coming up, that we spent that much time in a blue heat map kind of context with the oscillator flowing back and forth. So given those observations, I would certainly, I would want it to show me that it has in fact bottomed out. And, you know, once it does do that, I think there's a number of different ways to approach a trade here. And we're not going to get into that today because that's something maybe we'll talk about later. You know, your trade process, what you should be thinking about as you entering trades. You know, we've talked about going into derivatives and how you could possibly utilize derivatives in some of your trade strategies. But that is something that I would look at from an informational standpoint to decide, because that's, you know, this is measuring behavior. At the end of the day, when you make a trade, it's still going to be based on price. So, you know, the behavior can be telling you, can be giving you a tremendous amount of information, which this is right here. At the end of the day, you need to decide where you're entering and where you're exiting. And that is going to be, there's going to be a price associated with that. So for me, if I were looking at this, I would probably be, I would be willing to sit a little and see if there was more room on the downside. I'm certainly sitting until the oscillator starts to turn. And then, like I said, depending on what's happening with price action, at that point, there's different strategies to take advantage of that particular situation. So that's one example. Let's go and let's look at something on the premium list. You know, so something else that I also might look at here too, real quickly. I also would probably look at the particular sector this is in. So I'm going to go to this second tab here that I have up and bring up the materials sector and just take a quick glance at what this overall sector is doing. So, you know, overall the sector's kind of in a blue area. The oscillator's coming off, slope is flattening. Let's just take a look at 1 year to get a better perspective of what's going on. Oh, I'm gonna refresh that and go to 1 year. Okay, that's back on Southern Copper. So let me go to materials again. Southern Copper. Okay, maybe this is happening because I have both of these tabs open. Okay, so this is the 1 year look at the materials sector, which Southern Copper is part of. So, you know, I might also take a look at this and add that to my analysis on what I see here. And, you know, as a sector, we're in blue. Oscillators starting to come off and flatten. You know, like this certainly doesn't make me think I need to be aggressively getting into Southern Copper. So again, just some added analysis on top of the other analysis that you're doing. You know, we like to say that Outlier is the third leg of your stool. So people use fundamental analysis, people use technical analysis, And Outlier, this behavioral analytics analysis, can be your third leg and is something you should be using in conjunction with your technical analysis, with your fundamental analysis. So, okay, let's go back now and take a look at symbol LNT, which is in a completely different picture than the previous symbol we looked at. So, you know, on this 3-month snapshot, I see that it spent a good amount of January and February in red, moved out. Slope is starting to flatten, and we've got, I would call that blue 8 from a blue shade heat map perspective. So that's what I see here. I think we're going to get probably more information when we look at the 1 year. Okay, so 1 year from an oscillator standpoint, we are kind of reaching, you know, the upper boundary of the 1 year levels. It did spend a decent amount of time here before moving out. You know, I mean, if we're looking at previous highs, it definitely seemed to get up into the 56 area, 55 area, at least a couple times here, August, and then towards the end of the year. So that's what I see. That's what I see looking at the 1 year. And let's take a quick look at max and see what that shows. Okay, so it's interesting to kind of note that this last year here has pretty much defined the upper boundary on the oscillator. I don't see a whole lot else that really makes me think anything differently of what, you know, our 1 year was looking at. So I'm actually going to just bring this in a little bit so we kind of focus back in on a shorter time period. And, you know, I use this slider all the time. And, you know, what is a great thing to do with this slider, if you get to a symbol and you immediately take the slider and move it to the right side and move it to your left. So, you know, if I took this right side and moved it to my left, I will kind of go through a trade scenario. Like I'll start saying, you know, okay, this is what I see. What do I think is going to happen? Just to try to see if some of the things that I think, seeing how my perception of this data does actually translate into market movement. So with respect to this, you know, I would definitely be waiting to, well, it depends. If you got into here, I still would probably be waiting. I mean, I think this, when this starts to flatten out a little bit more, then there might be something to do. And again, hopefully in the near future, we're going to start talking about trading strategies. You know, there are a lot of things you can do with derivatives that don't necessarily need to take you out of a long position, but can hedge you if you feel that it's a good place to hedge. But again, you know, when I'm looking at this right now, I'm not doing any kind of technical analysis other than looking at previous highs and lows, and I'm not doing any sort of fundamental analysis. And those, as I'm sure all of you are aware, are important in your, you know, within your toolbox of your investment and trading process. So that's kind of how I would look at that one. Okay, those were two examples. I'd be happy to go over specific examples with people if you want to shoot an email to Outlier support and do a Zoom meeting and work through some things. I think for the last 5 minutes, I'd like to go over some of the features that we're going to be bringing on, hopefully within the next month, which again are the result of the feedback that we've heard from users like yourself, members like yourself. One of the things that we want to make sure we're doing is providing you with more information on the companies that you're looking at. So when you click on a symbol going forward, you're going to get a news feed, you're going to get 52-week ranges, daily price ranges, a ton of fundamental information, description on the company. We want you to be able to, look at something in the discount list, and if you don't know what that company is or what they're about, get a great idea within Outlier. So we're going to be providing that information. We're going to allow you to create saved lists. So within the discount and premium lists right now, you're kind of limited to just looking through there and seeing what's on each list. We want to give you the ability to create a saved list. So you could hypothetically put your portfolio into this saved list and have that there for you to access at any point. Within those lists, it's also going to notify you when a symbol switches from the premium side to the discount side and vice versa. So we want to be able to give you the ability to zero in on the symbols that you're interested in and kind of keep those separate. When you are looking at symbols, it can be kind of frustrating to continually switch back and forth within Outlier. So going forward in this new version, when you click on a symbol, it's going to open up in a new tab. So if you're looking at 4 different symbols, it's going to open up into 4 different tabs, which you can go back and forth on and look. And we hope that that saves you some time and makes the process of analyzing the information here a little bit smoother. The market snapshot window, which is up here, this market snapshot, we're also going to start including a market cap view as well, so that you get an idea of what the most heavily weighted market cap equity in a particular ETF is doing from a combined heat map oscillator value. Let's see, sorting by sector in the premium and discount list. So when you go down there, we've definitely gotten this request. People would like to be able to see just the technology sector. They want to see what's lowest and what's highest on the technology sector, similar to what you can see when you go through this market snapshot. So those are the main features that we're looking at introducing in the next version, which again, we hope to have out within a month. We're still working on the development of that. It still needs to go through QA, but I have seen some demos of it, and it is sharp. And again, it's one of the reasons why this platform is free. We want everyone to get comfortable with the data and have their opportunity to give feedback to build a complete software package that everybody can use. Some other questions that we've gotten are, with respect to symbols and, why aren't there more symbols? And we want everyone to know that we are in the process of adding more symbols. Again, it's not as simple as just typing in the symbol name and it's on the platform. We need to not only go through the data collection process, but make sure that the signal to noise ratio is acceptable with the data we're looking at. So it is a process for us to add symbols. We are working on it. We know everybody wants more symbols, and that is a goal to get at least 100 to 200 more names out, I would guess, in the next month or so. So I'll give one more opportunity for people to ask questions. And again, if you want to ask them separately through email or through the feedback portal, you can do so. I'd be happy to have a private Zoom meeting with anybody to talk through any specific questions you have. And I don't see any other questions. So in wrapping this up, I'm going to thank you all for coming. I'm not sure why. There we go. Thank you all for coming. We'd love to have your feedback and suggestions. You can use the feedback portal or email us at support@outlier.com. If you like what we're doing at Outlier, please share with your network. The more members we have, the more feedback we'll get, which is going to result in a better platform for everyone. We'd like to do more of these webinars and as I said, get even further into the data and even trading strategies and kind of the things that you should be thinking about as you start to figure out how to utilize this information. So I would love to hear your feedback. And once again, we thank you for coming today and look forward to speaking with you soon.